and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty Blinderman, the host of this podcast and YouTube channel, and I'm also the creator of the ADHD Friendly membership platform. I invite you to check it out at adhdfriendly.com to get information, and there's also some free resources on there and lots of tips to support you to tilt the playing field in favor of your brain so you're thriving with ADHD. All right, Becca, here we are, episode 105.
Woo.
I got to settle in. Becca knows I've been running around, little kind of, manic, crazy this morning, trying to get everything together for this podcast. I've never done this approach before, so it's going to be a little different. We'll see how it goes. But I will start, as I always do, with a celebration tied to ADHD Friendly tool. And then my topic is This Week with ADHD. So I'm just going to be sharing some little things here and there that came across my radar this week, things I'm reading, things I'm doing, things I'm listening to, what I've noticed. And I've thought about doing this for a long time. So now I'm just trying it out and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. My celebration, to start with my fun celebration, is I literally read 3 books this week.
What?
From start to finish. I know. Like, I know people that read a book a week and I think they're insane.
Yeah.
In my book club, there's several people that read a couple of books a week. I'm like, what? I know. But here's the thing. If you pick books that are really interesting and really easy to read, that are lighter books, so it's not like, it's a chore to get through them, it's so much easier to get through them. And I'm like, wow. And even if, like, I love reading Harry Potter, but there's such large books that they still take a while for me to get through. So I just wanted to quickly celebrate that I read them. I'm going to talk about these again in a second as part of my this week, because it's part of what I did this week.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to share that works a lot for me in keeping up with my reading, because what I notice works, and this ties to my ADHD Friendly tool for this week. The ADHD Friendly tool is friction. And by that, I mean, lower the friction for anything that's going to get in the way for you starting to do the things you want to do, whether it's reading, cleaning, starting a task, whatever it is. Reduce the friction that you feel. And then on the flip side, increase the friction for something that's going to distract you from your task. So with that, I mean, so if you think about, like, now I have to put my example because my brain is freezing. When you think about, okay. So what gets in the way of me reading is watching TV.
Yes.
So I just put the remote control in a different room.
Ooh.
So if I sit down and I have my books near me and the TV is in the room with me, if I'm going to go kind of almost by default without thinking about it to the TV, if the remote isn't there and I have to get up, and I've even gone so far as to put it in the garage or in my car glove box.
Away.
So it's really inconvenient.
Yeah.
That increases the friction and makes it far less likely that I'm going to get up and go into the garage and get the remote control to come back and turn it on.
Yeah.
I've done this where I've disconnected the cable cord
or
the internet cable from the TV and that kind of thing. So increase friction for what is going to distract you from your intentions and reduce the friction for things that would stop you from getting into it really easily. I always call it a zero entry pool. You want to have no resistance. If I ask you to jump into the deep end of a pool and it's like, oh, it's going to be cold. It's like, we'll just stand there and think about it and think about it and think about it. If it's a zero entry, like a beach entry pool, you literally are like, okay, I'm just going to literally put my toes in. And I can stand here and I can okay, I'm going to walk into my ankles. Okay. So it just reduces that resistance. The friction is lower.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to start. So part of the strategy for me to reduce the friction of reading is I use an app called Reading List. That's all it's called. It's free. I'm sure it has a paid version. I don't use the paid version. I use the free version.
Yeah.
And what I love is I can categorize my books by I finish them and it tells me the date I finished them, which I really like. I can have a list of what I'm currently reading, which is shockingly long. It's like I cannot be reading 15 books at the same time, but apparently I am. But it reminds me I started reading this and I put it down and I forgot. So I can keep up with it. Yes, if I want to, or I can be like, I am not going to go back and read that. And then it also lets me know what I want to read. So it has this almost like a queue of what's coming up next. So here's my finished, I blew it up and printed it out so you can get a view. I love it because it's visual. My brain is so visual. If I read a list of titles, I have to work really hard to remember, what is that? Why did I want to read that? Or what was that book about?
Yeah.
If I can see the picture, I'm far more likely to remember what the book is and why it's on my list.
Yeah.
And it pulls me into it with more ease. So visual is very important to me. So I just wanted to share that tool, and also how it reduces my friction for getting into it. The other thing that I want to share that works in terms of reducing friction, specifically to reading, is I like to get books in different formats. So one of the reasons I was able to read all three of these books was not only do I have them physically, for two of the books, I also had the Audible version from my library checked out, so I could listen to it and knit, or listen to it when I walked. And then I also have the ebook, which is what I read when I, do my Kindle when I go to sleep, because I don't want to have a physical book.
That makes sense.
And having all three formats, oh my gosh, it's so much better. So
what app do you use for the Audible?
I use Libby.
Libby, that's what it's called?
Okay. Yeah, it's through my library. A lot of the libraries use Libby. So if your library offers it, it's really easy to navigate. What I love is for especially like this one, that was like a new book, so it was only available for a week.
Ooh, okay.
It creates urgency, but I'm not going to be charged a late fee because it just automatically goes away. Like it'll tell me 2 days left before your book, and then it will tell me I can't renew it, because you can renew in the app, but
So
it will
you're
tell
not
me
paying for it.
no, it's free, and it goes away without any late fees or me
Ooh.
having to worry about. The downside is it goes away.
Yeah.
So if you didn't keep up with it the way you intended and it went away, you might have to request it again. But what is really amazing is if I request the same book, it will come and it will automatically open up to the page that I was last on, even though it's been returned and then rechecked out.
That's sparkly.
Yeah. So it keeps it really simple. So I just wanted to share that. I love that you didn't know that, Becca.
No.
And I'm just blazing over that like it's nothing, but that's another, that's another really good tip. And a lot of libraries use that. I know when I lived in North Carolina, it's one of those little bugs. This is a toleration. They're like little fruit flies. Oh, I'm realizing. Don't call PETA. Catch it and let it go. Okay. So my quote tied to this, I got from Ted Lasso, which just cracked me up, where he said, "Ain't nothing to it but to do it." That's a very neurotypical kind of brain approach. Like, just do it, just get it checked off. I love that quote, but what I'm gonna tie it to is think about friction. Do you need to increase the friction to make sure that you're staying with your plan and the sparkly thing that's easier to start isn't derailing you from your intention?
Yeah.
Or do you need to reduce the friction to make it easier? Because let's face it, getting into a book takes more effort than turning on a TV. It's passive, it's coming at you. A book, you have to engage your brain and focus to get into it. So it takes more effort. So it's important to notice where is the friction needed to help support that. So that's my ADHD friendly tool for this week. And now for a word from our sponsor. Hello, friends. I'm ADHD friendly girl. Are you overwhelmed, unmotivated, run down? Do you stop before you start? The answer to your challenges can be found at ADHD Friendly. ADHD Friendly is where we make the doing easier. Join ADHD Friendly today and start tilting the playing field in favor of your ADHD brain and start thriving. ADHDfriendly.com, where intention meets action. And we're back. All right, our topic for this week. Oh, I apologize in advance. This could be all over the place. This could be the episode where I'm like, okay, lesson learned, not doing that again. But we'll see where it goes. But this week with ADHD. So I'm going to start with when I thought about trying to figure out, what am I watching? What am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I doing? I needed a tool. So I have a way to keep up with TV shows I want to watch, movies I want to watch, either by myself or with family members. And I think I've shared that before, as a tool that I use in my notes app on my phone. But what I notice is, because I'm not categorizing them by category, and it feels too cumbersome for me to go into my little notes app and put things under Netflix and Hulu and So I was like, you know what? I think I just want to try a physical tool. So full disclosure, this is new. This is the ADHD this week. I just created a quick little tool that I'm trying out. where it's just a little, almost Brady Bunch looking,
Cute.
boxes where I can write down. It's a concrete external tool instead of my digital.
Right, on your
app.
notes app.
But this could be something I could like keep near where my family watches television, so we can easily remember. Because I have to tell you the amount, and I know this is going to be solved probably in the next 3 to 5 years, but the amount of effort it takes to remember what were we watching, what
was
streaming
it on?
service was it on, and then certain streaming services, like for me, like PBS,
Mhm.
it doesn't keep up with where you left it. So I have to like write down like the time, like when I'm watching like the
Exactly.
Ken Burns documentary.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was like I watched the baseball documentary. Highly recommend it. Not this week though. I digress. But I had to write down which inning because it was 9 innings.
Oh my God.
And each episode was almost 2 hours long. Some of them were longer than 2 hours. And it wouldn't tell me which one I finished with and what part of it I stopped. So I often didn't have time to watch 2 hours
to
of,
make sure you're
yeah.
back. At
So
your
I would have to
spot.
write down, I stopped at, 63 minutes into the episode or whatever, 63:27 or something. I'd write it down. So I like the idea of a concrete tool for that too, because it just feels like it's easier. Maybe keep it on a clipboard, somewhere
Yeah.
nearby. I'm going to try it, just sharing it in case it sounds like something that could work for you. So that's my blank sheet. So what I went ahead and did is I wrote in what I finished reading. So again, if you're listening to this, any visuals I share, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, ADHD Friendly Podcast on YouTube, for all the visuals, including me. Okay. All right. So what I read this week, I finished my 3 books. No, that's not it. I'm going to say the wrong book. Happiness Falls. This one I just finished yesterday.
It looks like I like the cover. It's
Well,
pretty.
and here's my other secret tip. It's large print. This is brand new and the long wait list. I got it because I requested large print, which is my secret hack to get further ahead. I learned this probably 20 years ago. If you go to the large print section or you request it when you request a book, again, through your library's app, I will look at every format that's offered, and large print, they don't have as many copies, but very few people request them. Don't do this at my library. This creates urgency. A new book, I can't renew it. It's due back. And a lot of the new ones, I only get them for a week and I have to be able to return it. So it creates urgency. And the same thing when I borrow it, I was able to jump the line, which is what it's called in my Libby app, and borrow it, but I only had it for 7 days and then it would go away. So Happiness Falls, this was actually, I didn't remember what it was about or why I picked it. It was just on my list. And I decided just to start reading it without going back and refreshing my mind, which I don't do often. Usually I have to go back and read the summary to get my brain like why am I reading this?
Right.
But
Excited
I felt so urgent because of I was like, just start. And I needed a new book because I finished the book and I needed a book to read when I was going to sleep because I fall asleep reading.
Yeah.
And so I needed to at least read the first chapter. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to read it to fall asleep to. What I loved about this book is it's about a family. It ended up being a little bit of a suspense that I wasn't expecting, but it's about a family, mom, dad, and 2 kids, or actually 3 kids. 2 are twins. Becca's a twin. But it's a brother and sister twin. They're 20 and they have a 14-year-old brother who has autism, and he has, and I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, but it's called, I think it's called Angel Man syndrome, where he's always smiling and looks happy, even if he's not.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know.
So it's fascinating. Yeah, it's a thing. But what I loved about this is I learned so much because the 14-year-old brother is not verbal. And they talked a lot about how a lot of people make assumptions about somebody who's nonverbal as being not very intelligent as well, because they can't communicate, but they can understand often much more than we acknowledge or give credit for. And it was just a really interesting read. Lots of therapeutic approaches were discussed, which I found very interesting. And I learned a lot. So I like learning when I'm reading. So I found that one very surprisingly interesting, ways I wasn't expecting, because I couldn't remember what it was about when I picked it up. The Bodyguard, Becca, this is a book for you. Light, fun romance. I finished this in probably a day and a half. This is why it was so stinking fast. This was another large print. Is it large print? It looks really, yeah, large print. I was gonna say, it looks like it's large print. Oh yeah. And you'll hear what's nice. This was a brand new book. Some of the pages were still like I could barely turn them. They were like, so like still together from the printing. Oh my gosh. So I think this is actually 2022, I think it came out. So it's a newer book. And it almost reminded me, because at first I thought, is this like The Bodyguard, like the old movie with Kevin
Whitney?
Costner? That's what I thought. Little bit,
Okay.
but with a twist, because it's a woman who's very petite, who works as an executive, I forget what it's called now, executive protection or something. There was a whole acronym for it. And she's protecting almost like a Brad Pitt or a Brad Pitt single, very good looking man. She's assigned to do his service detail.
That's
So,
hilarious.
but it was very entertaining, very interesting. And he has a stalker. So it was very interesting. Super fast read, but it was one I told my daughter, I'm like, when you're ready for a book, let me know, because that was one that took nothing into, instantly pulled you in, had lots of good humor within it, which I really enjoyed. So that was good. This one, The Marriage Portrait, was recommended to me from Betsy at my knitting shop. And it's historical fiction, which is one of my favorite things to read. It's by Maggie O'Farrell, and I loved this. This was a little bit longer for me to read. This probably took like 3 days, but it just pulled me right in. And it's about a duchess in 1500s. And I'm not giving anything away here by saying in the very first page, it says that she got married in 1560 and she was dead by 1561. And her husband is suspected of killing her. That's said in the first page. That's not a spoiler. It's a true story, but most of it's fictionalized because we don't know, actually all of the details, and it's told from her point of view.
Very cool.
It was very interesting. Highly recommend that. Okay. So that led to what I am going to be reading, but I'm going to skip over first to what I'm listening to, because that actually is part of what spurred some of my interest in other things this week. So I wanted to share some of the podcasts I'm listening to this week. One of them is On Purpose with Jay Shetty. And I got some really nice quotes. I'm doing a session on strengths, as you know, for my first Friday webinar as part of my ADHD Friendly membership offering. And I do a new webinar every month on a new topic. And this month we're talking about strengths and how to identify your strengths and find evidence of them. And so I got a lot of great quotes from Jay on strengths that I found really helpful. So I highly recommend his podcast, On Purpose with Jay Shetty. And then I learned about the Happiness Lab, which I learned about from Happiness Falls. It was a podcast that the author at the end of the book talked about a podcast that they listened to, that they learned things from. And I'm just listening to one episode. It's a little more scripted.
Okay.
Not at all like what I do. So it was very different from a lot of the podcasts I listen to, but if you like a lot of structure and you can tell, like, it was, even the interview, it was like, she would ask a question and then the person would answer something and then she would kind of like interject. It was very, kind of like, and so then I asked this question. So it wasn't like a flow, it was more intentional.
Yeah.
But for a lot of, or, depending on your brain wiring and what works for you, that might be what you need. I know I don't tolerate while people go off on long tangents. So sometimes I really like that very intentional, purposeful structure. So I listened to that a little bit. I always listen to The Watch, which is one of my Ringer podcasts. I think I've told you, with Chris Ryan and Andy Greenwald, and they're always sharing what they're watching. And I just finished watching, one of the things I've been watching is Reservation Dogs.
Oh, yes.
Res Dogs. And they were breaking down what they thought of the series finale. So I really enjoyed that.
There's a couple seasons of that now, isn't there?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Okay.
3. And the final episode just aired. It just came out this week.
It's done now.
Yeah. So when you listen to this I'm a couple of weeks ahead. That's the way I'm recording, and I'm going to share more about that next week, why I've had to get so far ahead. And then I also listened to the Tim Ferriss show. Tim always has some really interesting guests. They talk about, not always do I find the topic interesting, but a lot of times I do. And this week he talked about factfulness. I literally, a lot of the books the nonfiction books I buy, I hear about on a podcast and I have to go get them. And so I just started this one. I'm just a chapter in. What I love about this is this is the subtitle: 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think. And so it
Uh-huh.
talks about negativity bias, which we know everybody has, but with ADHD, that's much more impactful. And one of the things that really hit me on the podcast, the Tim Ferriss show, where he talked about this book, was he talked about how a lot of the news that we are consuming, whether you're watching it on TV, or even though I don't watch the news on TV anymore, I am reading it
Yeah.
a lot. And we're taking in all of this information, but for the vast majority of the information that we're reading about, there's nothing we can do about it.
Out of our control.
And so my example is, I think I told you this week, I heard about the tree in England that was cut down.
Yes.
And I haven't read anything else because that was pretty much it. Because I listened to this podcast after that experience and I was like, oh my gosh, it drained my energy for most of the day. I felt, even talking about it now, I'm like, I just felt so sad for that tree, that it just broke my heart that it's not there anymore. And that it's just, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
And so does it help me to know that? And not that I don't want to know things, but it really is. Often with ADHD, we can be very sensitive, hypersensitivity to things. And so noticing, is it serving you? And or, if maybe there's certain times of day that you can tolerate the news, if you do need to delve into certain areas, maybe, more intentionally deciding, what articles will I read, or what will I watch? And so I really am interested because it talks about how to get what you need without it getting in your way, and how there's a little quiz at the very beginning of this that I took. I like, it has some visuals that are really very sparkly throughout. Most of the visuals in the book are black and white, but the very first chapter has a quiz, test yourself, and it's all about the world. And there was 13 questions. There's a little challenge, like if you go get the book and do it. In the United States specifically, people throughout the world didn't do well on the quiz, but for the people in the United States that took it, they said that fewer than 5% got more than 4 questions right, which I was in good company because I got 4 questions out of 13.
My.
And they were just things that you think because you hear all of these things, but your brain is focusing on the negative things. So we're reading them with that filter.
Yeah.
And even things, that you're like, oh, it's got to be this. It's like, will this be better or worse? And it's like, well, it's got to be worse. Everything's trending. And so a lot of that is just our negativity bias that's being brought into, because the news is pretty much wired for negativity. It's how they get our brain engaged, because that's how our brains are wired. So that's what I'm listening to, which led me a little bit to what I am reading. One of the other things I'm reading that, again, this was also from the Tim Ferriss show. I did a little bit of a deep dive into books from the podcast listening this week. I thought I'd already read this. It's called The Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right. I thought it was How to Get Things Done. But it's really highly rated. As I flip through, I think this is going to be a challenging one to get through. I might need to buy the Audible. I have some Audible credits to listen to it, because it doesn't have, I thought it had visuals. It doesn't. But it has really good reviews and it sounds very interesting. So I might check back if I like it.
Yeah.
Something else that I've already read. This was something I checked out from do you remember when I took this out from the library? Did I show you this? I had like 50 or 60 tabs. That was this, I bought it. And so I am going to try to read a quote from this. Every podcast episode is going to be my new way of finishing up, because I just find them so sparkly. So I'm sorry, I didn't say, if you're listening to this, it's called Excellent Advice for Living, Wisdom I Wish I'd Known Earlier, from Kevin Kelly. And I know I heard about this on a podcast. I can't remember which podcast it was, because I heard about it like a month ago. I got the book from the library. I was flagging. It was ridiculous, because there's like multiple quotes, and I had like flags, multiples on I was like, I'm basically flagging almost every single quote, which is a little silly. But I was like, I have to have a copy of this. And a lot of the things that he puts in here, he says they're, things he's heard before, and you may not know where to attribute it to, or it's his slant on something. So they're all kind of those sage little pieces of advice that we probably all heard, but he just compiles them on one book. And I just found it really accessible and easy to read. And every one of them resonated with me. So I thought that could be like a fun little thing to share. Okay, what I'm watching. On to more in my week. Yeah, I'm still doing my Will and Grace deep dive all the way back. I think I'm up to season 6. So funny.
Love Will.
Still so funny. stands the test of time. I'm hoping I get to the new when they did the reboot during the pandemic. I'm hoping that I get to it before it goes away because, everything's going on and off streaming services. And I'm terrified it's going to go away. So I'm doing that. And then I'm also now fully into the Antiques Roadshow. That's one of the PBS things that I'm watching now. And my favorites are the episodes that are like 15 or 20 years old. And then but it's all the same episode, but then they just do like this is what the appraisal was in 2003. And then it'll and it shows you if it went up or down now.
Ooh,
so it'd be like the
cool.
2023 update. And it's really fun to see 15 to 20 years later, did that thing go up even more in value? Did it go down in value? And the thing that I just saw yesterday that I texted to my husband because I couldn't believe that this was real. It was a table that was from the 1750s, I think, and like a colonial kind of period table that was estimated in 2008 to be worth between $250,000 and $350,000. And the lady was just crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything appraised for more money on the Antiques Roadshow. I'm sure there was, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They updated it for 2023. It's now worth $20,000 to $30,000. Like, what happened? Did they appraise it wrong? Like, did they
How did it go down that much?
I have no idea. It makes no sense. I'm like, I hope they sold it. I hope they sold it.
Me too.
Because that's like a life-changing, like, I don't care how much I love the table. You
Yeah.
tell me it's worth $250,000, it's gone. I'd be like, all right, where do I sign it up for the auctioneer? But I get, it's something I can knit to, that I can, just kind of look up, and I can tolerate if it's not very interesting because I'm focused on my knitting. So I'm watching that. All right, what I'm doing this week, Becca. Now I haven't done this yet, but this is what's coming up. So I created an ADHD friendly team for the NAMI walks, and it's this Saturday. And they offer walks all throughout the country. I invite you to check out NAMI, and I'm probably saying, is it NAMI? Is it NAMI? I don't know. I say NAMI. The National Alliance for Mental Illness. I always forget exactly what the acronym sounds. I hope I have that correct. If not, we'll put it up in the edit so that you can see it. But NAMI.org is the organization. I invite you to check it out. But they offer walks to raise awareness, and we've been fundraising for our team. And because we're team ADHD friendly, I had shirts made with our new logo.
Those are so fun.
So I'm just holding this up, and then I have my ADHDfriendly.com. We're going to wear these. I might be wearing this at another event later this season, but I had one made for each team member. I was super excited. I probably should share who made these. I got them from, I want to say Etsy, but now I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it was an independent seller, like on a different site, but they were super, honestly, I think they were like $11 each. Like, it was really affordable.
So cute.
I know. And I was so happy with the colors, which I have to say, I'm going to hold it up again.
Look at that.
Look at the variations in the colors. I didn't even know my logo had those variations in colors.
It's really
so I don't know if it actually does, or if that was just the way I don't know. I love it. I love my logo even more now.
Yeah.
And in case you didn't see it, there's like a little smiley face on the side of the light bulb, which is very intentional, but not distracting. So I love that it's very visible in the large logo for the t-shirt. So I'm doing that this weekend with my team.
Woo-hoo.
And also knitting. So, oh wait, one more book. I forgot. This is the two books from now. This is my on my list of things that I'll be reading. Yellowface, I've been on. This is a Reese's book club. I have found I really do enjoy Reese Witherspoon's book picks. So
I have heard about this one.
I don't know anything about it. It's new. So actually, as I say that, I can't wait. What am I thinking?
You're gonna have to.
This tells me I have to start it. So but I was waiting because I did request the audio book and the ebook. So I'll have to check and see if they're in, because I do have a hard time just with the one format if I can't sit and read without interruption.
Right.
But we'll see. But that's something I will be reading. Okay. So on to my knitting. Okay. So I'm making socks, and this is just my ADHD.
Needle down.
Yeah, needle down. Got to get them. Okay. So I'm still loving my toe up socks. These are my Maine socks. I bought this yarn in Maine, and I finished one sock so far. Loving the little heel here. It's just
super cute.
Super sparkly. So this is why this came across my radar. So I've got all these thin knitting needles. These are size 1s. And it takes 2 for every sock. And usually I'm knitting 2 at the same time. I just finished the other one. So that's why this one's loose. But because I couldn't remember how many I had, and I have a couple of socks pairs going,
Yeah.
I bought 2 more when I was at the knit shop last week. Becca, I think I now have 8 of these.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, no, 10 or 12, because I've got 4 right here. I would say 12. I don't need these. I do this all the time where I can't hold it in my brain. What I actually have, what do I need? I better buy them just in case. So that was just my little like observation that I thought, yeah, that's my brain. That's what I do. So now I've got even more of these needles that are all over the place and
You'll
constantly.
never be without.
No, but I do feel the pressure. I'm like, I need to get a set of socks on those. So I don't feel like they're just sitting there. Like not good. I spent money on them. I need to get socks on them. And then, okay, this is my cleaning hack. So one thing that I noticed this week, I am really enjoying that's making it easier for me to clean. One of the things I hate cleaning more than almost anything else, my toilet. And so I wanted to share, I got this at Costco. You guys know Costco, one of my favorite things. It's the Clorox toilet wand. Guys, full disclaimer, if it's not environmental friendly, like I don't have the bandwidth or the like same thing with the little gnat that I may have killed, may or may not. I'm not going to own it. I have to do what works for me. And if I go too far down that rabbit hole of how is this impacting the environment, like I won't do anything. Like I literally just freeze. So I beg permission to use what works for me and beg forgiveness if it's doing anything that I'm not intending. But it does lower the friction goes way down, so I can go into cleaning the toilet with more ease. I just wanted to share how stupid easy it is. Each box comes with a wand. It comes with these little bags, these little bits. It clicked. Did you know
Oh, that
click?
was nice.
That's it. You go in and you scrub the toilet. You don't have to touch anything. No squirt and liquid. No, you just scrub it dub. And this is the part that I'm aware I'm probably contributing to landfills. I'm feeling guilty even saying it. I'm so sorry, but it does work and my toilets are clean. Guys, they're clean. I have to do it.
That's a win.
I have to.
That's
And
a
then
win.
you just push the button when you're done. This is the guilt part. And you throw it away. No, I do run around and I use it on multiple toilets. So, but the toilets are getting done, guys. So I have to share that. And please don't, that might be the first big, maybe people are going to post a bunch of things like criticizing me for not taking care of the environment. This could be an ADHD friendly thing, actually, now that I say that. Because it just, I don't think my toilets have been cleaned as consistently ever.
Right.
It's so easy. Just using the brush and having to go the brush, it inevitably it drips.
Makes a mess.
I hate it. I hate it. So that's it. Was there anything else I said I wanted to share from this week? I shared kind of, I know I was talking about, sometimes I feel like, guys, let's be honest. Let's just like own it. I have the camera here and my podcast corner angled. So you're seeing what looks like a pretty neat and tidy presentation. And sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable with that because that's not what the rest of my world looks like. I got my trusty sidekick Becca over here. Sidekick. Sky high. Love sky high. Okay. I've got a 1,000-piece puzzle on the floor right behind her. I forgot to even tell you, be careful, don't trip. I've got papers all over the sofa that I have in my office that, I was sorting through to get ready for this podcast, that I have to go back and figure out how to organize them. Like I have piles and clutter and I have a hard time keeping up with things in a lot of areas. Not as many as I used to. And I have a lot of systems. I keep up with things with so much more ease.
Yes.
But it's always a work in progress. There's never a done while we're still alive and kicking, because we're always going to, it's like, we can't just set it and forget it when it comes to cleaning. It's going to need to be done again. We're going to have to continue to organize and put things away and file things and, put away dirty dishes and whatever. Laundry is always going to have to be done. There's always more. And there's no perfection. So I always want to just really highlight, even if it looks like, oh, she's got time to read 3 books. It only happened because I figured out if I get all 3 formats, I can read in lots of different places. And I turned off the TV and, keep the remote. So it's like, it's really working because I'm creating lower friction where I want to start and increasing the friction where I really don't want to spend my time and get distracted. But it's not perfect. It's just better than it was. So that's what I wanted to share for this week with ADHD. Open to your comments. This is episode 105. If there's something that resonated with you, something that you found helpful, would love to hear it. Oh, I forgot one other thing, Becca.
What?
Okay. This is just bonus thing. I'm also working on, I came across when I was looking at, I don't know if it was Instagram or somewhere where somebody wrote 10 passive aggressive commandments. I don't even know who posted it, but it cracked me up and it made my brain think, oh, what are the 10 ADHD commandments?
Ooh.
And so I've got a couple. And again, episode 105, if you have some that could be added to it, I'd love to hear what else could go in this list. Yeah. But the first ones I have, and this was just off the top of my head in no particular order, thou shalt make systems visible, concrete, and external whenever possible. Yes. Thou shalt challenge self-talk that isn't positive or realistic. Ooh. And thou shalt ask, what evidence is there to support that belief whenever we have a limiting belief? Those were the first 3 that came to my mind really, really quickly. Maybe one of them should also be, thou shalt remember there is no perfect. Yeah. There is no tomorrow. What was that from? That's another movie. All right. Oh, Rocky.
There you go.
All right, guys, I swear I'm doing everything for my brain today and it's just kind of all over the place. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to end with a quote, a little piece of advice from Excellent Advice for Living. Here it is. Learn how to learn from those you disagree with or even offend you. See if you can find the truth in what they believe. Ooh. I have to think about that one a little bit. That's interesting. Oh, I'm good. I'm gonna add one more. I like this one. This is really short and energetic. Be enthusiastic. Being enthusiastic is worth 25 IQ points. Cha-ching, because I think I got the enthusiasm today. All right. Quick recap. Episode 105, I shared about my ADHD friendly tool. I shared it in terms of reading, how to increase and reduce friction to make it easier to read, especially when everything else is so much easier for your brain to get focused on. And then I talked about this week with ADHD, all the different things that have kind of been binging around in my brain and coming across my dashboard and thoughts I had, things I wanted to share. I also want to let you know I have a TAD talk, TADD talk coming out. October is ADHD Awareness Month. And I recorded a short, it's under 6 minutes TAD talk. It's coming out on Sunday, October 29th. If you want to check it out or any of the other TAD talks this month, I invite you to visit add.org. It's for ADA. And here's a little picture again. There I am. You're going to see this on my Instagram promoting it. So I'm doing a talk on thriving with ADHD by starting a success journal. Woo. And it has a free tool that will be shared. So if you listen to it, you'll get access to the free tool. So that's it for this episode. As always, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Our numbers are going up again. Woo. Not quite sure how or why, but if you're new, welcome. Thank you. If you're repeating, welcome back. So much appreciate anybody that comes and checks out our podcast, and love to hear what resonates for you and what you experience if you try any of the things that we suggest or share in our episodes. If you haven't checked out ADHDfriendly.com yet, I invite you to do that for lots of resources to support you to thrive with ADHD. Until next time, tally ho.